Majority of childless adults younger than 50 cite that they just don't want to have kids. 44% of childless individuals 18 to 49 say it's unlikely they will ever have children. 44%, almost half. And 56% said they just don't want to have kids. If you have people who just don't want to have kids because it's cooler to have puppies that you wheel around in strollers, to go and do all your Instagram pictures of all your cool hiking places, and you don't want to have to share your life with a tiny human you're responsible for. If we're propagating chemical abortion drugs that kill human beings, our civilization will collapse. And now it's here. It's here in America. We are below replacement value. Pro-choice and pro-life Americans should agree that we generally need to create and promote the creation of new human beings.
Yeah, we don't care. One more time for the cheap seats in the back. We don't care. The people who you should really be talking about now are the people that want to have kids, many of them desperately, but for whatever reason cannot. They haven't found a partner yet, and they can't afford or don't want to do it on their own. They have fertility issues, or just the realities of capitalism prevent them from being parents. Your fear tactics aren't working anymore. Just like the fear tactics trying to convince women to get married and be in relationships with men, those fear tactics aren't working anymore because we don't want to. And we don't care what happens to the world if we don't. We're tired. Women are tired. Because so many of us have realized that the survival of capitalism depends on our subjugation. And there are a lot of, second waiver, like socialist type feminists who understood this from jump. And I'm talking way back in the day, like Emma Goldman era people. They understood this from the beginning. Women are not interested in rescuing a system that requires our subjugation in order to survive. That kind of system does not deserve to survive. That kind of system should disappear. That kind of system should die. And it's really insulting pro-life lady. I don't know that person's name, but I've seen her face on all the pro-life videos. She's a pretty popular pro-life activist, I think. It's really insulting, lady, for you to come on the internet and say that people, and by people, she's talking about women because she's a pro-life activist, that women's reasons for not wanting children are frivolous. But even if you think those reasons are frivolous, do you want a frivolous person becoming a mother? But even the women who give those so-called selfish or frivolous reasons for not wanting children, when you dig down underneath those reasons, you find the truth, the real reason. Having children is not economically sustainable for most Americans. And the number of people that it's not economically sustainable for is rising by the day. The cost of childcare is astronomical. It costs as much to put a child in daycare. That costs as much as it costs to send a kid to Harvard or Yale. It's insane. And that's every year from birth on. But then conservative women like this will say, well, just stay home and you won't need childcare. But yeah, that makes us financially independent on a man. That is not economically sustainable either. That is very risky. So the choices are: have a child you can't afford and struggle in poverty or permanent lower middle class working poor status, possibly ending up on assistance of some kind. Or surrender your entire life and your economic well-being and that of your children to the whims, desires, and productivity of one person. One person who has been conditioned their entire life that your only value is your service to them. Surrender your life and your well-being and that of your children to a person who does not see you as a human being. I guarantee you that if you dig past the Birkin bag dog selfie, whatever, young women on Instagram, beneath those I want my freedom reasons is that. But you don't do that, do you? Because conservative women like you never bother to speak to other women as though they're people. You see women as future mothers, all of them. Because you cannot conceptualize a world where people don't think like you. And you are so afraid of the world transitioning into something new, something you don't recognize, that your only option in your mind is just to go back. If you just go back to the way things were, it'll be easier and all the problems will be solved. No, because here's the secret about the way things were. They never were like that. This image we have of family life mid-century in the post-war era, post-World War II era, is a fiction. It is based off of Cold War propaganda. You are asking people to build and organize their lives based on a fantasy, a world that never existed. I get that you're scared. A lot of us are scared because the world is changing. Believe me, leftists, we're scared too. We're scared about climate change. We're scared about a lot of things. But what we're not scared of is the world transitioning to something new, because we know that that transition could mean something better. But because conservatives live, their lives are gripped by fear of the other, fear of the unknown, that they cannot imagine a world that is better, but is also a world they don't recognize. For them, if they don't recognize it, if they don't understand it, that means it's automatically bad and they want nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, left-leaning people are like, imagine a world where X, Y, Z. This would be so much better. Well, how would we work out this? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it and come up with a plan. Liberals, left-leaning people have the ability to dream in a way that conservatives don't. And it's very sad that they don't have that ability. But I'm telling you, lady, this is only going to get worse. The birth rate is going to keep dropping. It's going to keep dropping. So instead of railing against it, trying to curtail women's rights and force us into economic dependence on men and force us into motherhood, which is basically what motherhood does. It forces you into economic dependence on men or poverty. Like, those are the choices for most women, unless you have like a lot of economic resources. You have a 6-figure job, you have multiple businesses. The single mothers I know, all the single mothers I know are doing great, but they're doing great because they're professional women who had money of their own before they became mothers, and they became mothers very late in life. When they were settled and established, they already owned homes, they already had large chosen family communities, they had community support, they already had that before they had a child. Meanwhile, you want women to have kids when they're like 20, 25, before they've figured out who they are, before they've built up their finances, before they've built their community of support that they're going to need to mother in the way that they need to. So instead of trying to do all that, trying to force us, you should think about policies that support the world as it is rather than the world as it was, or the world as the way you believe it should be. Because this is the world. This is the present. This is the future. It's not going to change. It's not going to go back the way it was. We're not going back. So let's just all accept reality and plan our policies accordingly. I know you're not going to do that. This video really isn't for you. It's for sane people that might be watching this. So you're just going to keep shaming women, blaming women. You're just going to keep, restricting our rights further and further and further and further, until we live in this wasteland where nobody in America wants to get pregnant because pregnancy is so dangerous with all these abortion restrictions. There's no hospitals nearby where you can give birth. And even if you can, it's incredibly expensive and incredibly dangerous, because if something goes wrong, your OBGYN can't treat you the way you need to be treated in order to save your life because of all these restrictions that you supported. So if anyone's unaliving women or unaliving people or unaliving mothers or even unaliving babies, it's not pro-choice people. It's you.